What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Duel the Day podcast. We have another awesome episode for you today with Dr. Cody Golman. He's at the age of 19, after experiencing severe illness and injuries, he discovered natural ways to regain his health. At 25 years old, he established one of Denver's largest healing centers. Since then, Dr. Golman has now taken his expertise to a virtual weight loss company, combining natural health methods with uplifting psychological principles. His latest venture, the 4 Secrets to Weight Loss book, has helped countless individuals shed unwanted fat without resorting to drugs or surgeries. Driven by a deep desire to inspire and empower others, Dr. Golman is on a mission to help people unlock their full potential, starting with their health. His goal is to ignite as many individuals as possible to live life to the fullest. As you are going to love this episode, we had a blast talking with Dr. Golman. It was hard to fit everything. Actually, we didn't fit everything we wanted to talk about into one episode. So there's going to be some future episodes with Dr. Golman. You guys are going to love this. His virtual weight loss company, Fast 40, is phenomenal. His principles and his pillars that he works off of, and just the way that he talks with and helps people. It's inspiring. It was great to talk with him, and you guys are going to really enjoy this one. So without further ado, enjoy the show.
Because of that, whatever you give your body enough of, it'll become efficient at burning. That's the wisdom in this.
I mean, we're both fascinated with weight loss. It's since that's a big area that you work in and deal with. Okay. I guess a great place to start, and then we can kind of bridge off of that is, what are kind of your fundamental pillars in regards to weight loss? Like, what is your program, built on, right? Like, there's all sorts of fad diets and the best exercise you can do, but like, what's your approach with your programs and how you get new people started and on the right path?
Yeah, maybe let's say to kind of move up, let's kind of work into that, because just to give you the background of where I'm coming from. I opened a chiropractic office I was 24. I had that for 17 years. And one of the things when you work with, I was working with 300 patients a week for years. And what I watched was the hypnosis that people have about health. And the hypnosis is that your body is a weak, it's a weak piece of meat that truly needs some assistance. And you really need to find the right pills to make sure your body can survive in this dangerous world. And anatomically, biologically, and electronically, that is completely fucking false. So if what I've wanted to do for a long time is, what happens is, if people truly understood what their body truly is how it's built and how it works, I'm not sure I think you'd be in almost an orgasmic state. Seriously. So we'll start there, meaning if people understood they have 60,000 miles of arteries and veins in their body, 60,000 miles of arteries and veins. Each little artery and vein is carrying red blood cells, which carry oxygen and nutrients to your tissues. You can't even fathom what that's even like. I mean, our minds can't fathom, right? I can't fathom that.
No.
And you guys eat pizza and you eat broccoli and it turns into your tissue. What in the hell? That's amazing. Mm-hmm. And the reason I start with that is because I love to empower people, number one, to understand that you have an incredible intelligence inside your body. This same intelligence that built this universe. You look out and see the moon and the sun. I don't know if you guys seen the most recent, there's a telescope. I can't remember what it's called. Not the Hubble, but there's one they just put up. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
The James Webb?
Yeah, the Webb. Yeah. Have you seen the pictures from James Webb?
It's incredible.
It's insane. So do you see one of the pictures they took? It's on like an 8.5 by 11 picture. And one of the scientists he goes to the little tiny dot in that picture and he goes, this is one entire solar system. And in this one, and he said, this is an inch picture, like equivalent, like an inch of what that camera can, if it turned around to take. And there's 7,000 universes inside that picture.
Wow.
So yeah, right. So you start thinking, this is the intelligence that built this universe is literally organizing the cells and tissues inside your body. So that's the first place to understand, because when you start feeling into that, you go, wow, did that intelligence really create you to be this weak, like disease ridden, being that can't function in this universe? And the question already is answered when you start looking at it from that lens. You go, no, there's no way it's like that. So just like the solar system is being guided by universal intelligence, your electrons and your cells and tissues are being guided by your innate intelligence. It's the same thing. And so when you look at it, you know you have a universal intelligence inside you, coordinating digestion, blood flow. People don't realize they have over 220 glands in their body. Everyone knows about a few glands. They go, oh, the thyroid gland. And they know the thyroid gland because the thyroid gland is the one advertised as the one that's the one that goes wrong. And so the funny thing is that each gland produces 10 to 100,000 chemicals.
Wow.
We can't even comprehend that, right?
So many.
Right, exactly. So when you come from that perspective, and I was very disempowered from as a kid in terms of health. That's why I started researching it. The best way to control people is to put them in fear. And so what I found is that the medical system in general, and there's a lot of history behind this, but the medical system in general has created massive amounts of fear about people's bodies. That bacteria is going to get you, virus is going to get you. You should wear a mask because you shouldn't be breathing this toxic air. And it's so funny because anatomically, if you look at any anatomy physiology textbook, that's not the case. When you read a physiology textbook, you're just like, holy shit, this is amazing. You realize that your body has everything it needs. And so you already create more chemicals and more pharmaceuticals than all of the chemical companies combined. Just each one of your bodies, you create more chemicals than all the pharmaceutical companies in the world. And so when my patients, I started realizing this years ago, I would start giving this information and I watched something happen. They would start getting empowered and they go, that's interesting. They go back to their doctor and would just say, hey, just keep asking why when you go to your doctor. So if they go, let's say they have a runny nose and the doctor said, oh, you got a runny nose. Let's try some, I'm just making these names up. I don't know what the names are. Let's try some of this spray for you to stop the runny. And they'd say, why do I need to stop the runny? I taught them to ask why. Why should I stop the runny? Well, because that's why you're here. That's the symptom. And they go, yeah, but why do I need to stop the runny? Because runny nose is the innate intelligence flushing out toxins. Every time you spray some shit in your nose or you take a pill to stop an allergy, you're enabling, you're stopping the ability for your innate intelligence to flush out toxins. So when we view things from that lens, it's the first place I want to start with is your body knows exactly what the fuck it's doing. That's the important thing to understand. It's not disempowered, and you don't need to bring this meat suit to somebody to go, hey, can you help me figure out my meat suit? Most people you're asking haven't figured out their own meat suit. You go to the doctor, most people go, I don't think I don't respect my doctor's health. I don't want, but you're asking this guy or girl about your health. So I love to consult with the inner doctor. And so if we start with that framework, that perspective is what I use in the weight loss. Okay. And in the chiropractic office, I had people heal from diabetic conditions, sickle cell anemia, AIDS, breast cancers, digestive cancers. And all I did was make sure that their brain and body were connected. This is the best doctor you've got. This is the only doctor that built your body. There's no other doctor that knows how it works. If us three go to Harvard Medical School and we read every anatomy, physiology, biology textbook they have, What percentage of the human body do you think we would understand if we read every textbook at Harvard Medical?
One.
Good guess. Good guess. What do you think,
1%.
Tyler? What do you think, Tyler?
5%.
Man, you guys good. It's 3%. That's what they've added. So you guys are right. You're like perfect. 1 in 5. We take the difference. It's 3. That's perfect.
Yeah, nice.
So that's what they figured is 3%. So that means all of our medical understanding and everything is based on 3% of how the body works.
Wow.
So it's very exactly. So when you go to the doctor and they're giving you a pill, it's based on very limited knowledge and very limited data, because that hasn't even taken into account thoughts and your physiology. I mean, you can get stressed and your blood pressure goes high, and you go to the doctor and you go, oh, you need blood pressure pills, right? So that's not even taking into account thoughts, emotions, energies. It's not even like looking at that. So when we kind of fast forward, and over the years, the reason I got into weight loss was because I was helping people heal from these conditions, headaches, migraines. I mean, and they were getting off these terrible medications, medications that were designed to suppress symptoms. Medications are not designed to fix the cause of a problem. It's very important. I'm not saying that's bad. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not, and by the way, this is the thing, Nick, is that most people have this sort of intuitive knowing. Most people have this underlying knowing, but because we grow up in a world where our parents tell us to take medication, or your friends are doing it, or whoever, you just kind of go, maybe I'm just kind of weird. So I always thought I was weird. I always thought, that my nose running was maybe somehow like supposed to happen, or coughing is potentially my lungs clearing out. I kind of thought about this, but I didn't know until you read anatomy textbooks. Okay. And that's what happens. Nose running, clearing out sinuses. Coughing is the most amazing mechanism to clear out your lungs. But when you take a cough suppressant, you literally are saying, you're telling your body, screw you. I'm going to remove the one mechanism you truly have to clean out your lungs. Therefore, you're going to prolong this infection. It's going to happen every year. So what I saw was I was helping people get off these medications, feel better, but they would do Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, paleo, keto, fasting. And what would happen is they would lose weight and it would come back. And every time they lost weight and every time it came back, it got harder each time. And you guys probably know what I'm talking about because this occurs. So I took that same sort of understanding of that you've got this incredible intelligence inside. There's no way that it's trying to, there's no way that it's trying to make you unhealthy and make you fat. It's not trying to do that. It's got to be to some reason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I took this exploration. I had about 7 pounds of fat on me. I was a bodybuilder in my early 20s, but I still had this little tiny, they call it spare tire. I mean, I was muscular and ripped, but I couldn't get rid of that. So I kept exploring to try to figure out if I can figure this out with myself, like I can maybe help other people. So I figured out a way, and I'll explain more of this, to turn my body into a fat burning machine and actually reset my hormones, because I was eating super clean. And in 11 days, I burned off 7 pounds of fat. And I was tracking my fat and muscle percentage to make sure it wasn't muscle. And I was feeling amazing. When you burn muscle, you don't feel amazing, right? So I thought that's interesting. So then I started experimenting with my friends and my family. And I saw the same thing. I have a friend who's, is at least 100 pounds overweight. He lost 30 pounds in 40 days with what we did.
Oh, wow.
And it was fat specifically. And he hates exercise and he hates eating right and all that stuff. So then I started looking, as I researched this more, I started looking into what are Jenny Craig and Weight Watchers and paleo and keto all doing. So let's look at a few things, which I think will really give us a framework. Jenny Craig, paleo, keto, intermittent fasting. There's a whole list of these programs. They're all based on one fundamental principle: calorie reduction. That's the fundamental principle, is calorie reduction. Now, it's important that we understand that Nick and Tyler, you guys know, we have advanced centers in our brain. We also have primitive centers. We have centers in our brain that are inherited over from the animal plane. We have an animal inside us. There's an animal inside you that wants to have sex. There's an animal inside you that wants to fight or flight and run and digest. We have these. These are parts of the brain. It's very primitive centers. When we were cave people, we didn't have Popeyes and McDonald's and grocery stores. Let's say we shot a deer, we would consume it, and then we'd go several days, maybe weeks without food, trying to eat berries and doing shit like that, but we weren't getting a lot of food. Your brain, literally, when you go without food, your brain turns on fat storage. And it's because fat is the best fuel source for the human body. Your intelligence inside says, okay, you're starving yourself. Let me store fat for you so I can have future fuel storages just in case so you don't die. It's about survival. So that's the first principle. Calorie reduction triggers fat storage. And this is called the anti-starvation mechanism. We think it's in the amygdala, some of the most primitive centers of the brain. So that's the first principle is if you cut your calories, you store fat. Now, when I tell people that, they go, yeah, but Dr. Golman, I've cut calories and lost weight. And usually it's someone who's talking to me who's overweight, right? And I go, how did it work? And they go, well, yeah, I lost weight, but it came back. I'm like, yes, that's what I'm saying. You'll burn fat for the first 7 to 10 days, what I've noticed when someone sort of starves themselves or reduce calories. Then something interesting happens. Your body goes, oh shit, I can't burn fat anymore because we are starving ourselves. It starts burning vital muscle tissue and proteins. Mm-hmm. And that's why people get exhausted eventually and they feel like shit when they're fasting. And so then the body goes, let me burn muscle and store fat, because if you're going to do this to yourself, I can help you survive by keeping fat on you, not muscle. So let's start there. I want to see how that lands with you guys.
I mean, to me, it definitely resonates. So I'll start off by saying that I've lost 100 pounds. So I've gone through my own weight loss journey. It was not fast, but a lot of what you're saying resonates with me. Like when I think of the human body, I think of how we evolved to get to this point, and to what you're saying, like 300 years ago, when people were living in, I don't know, Minnesota, they weren't eating vegetables in the winter, and they were, to your point, having to eat a lot whenever they made a kill or whatever, and they probably went a while without food. So our bodies can adapt. They can go a long while without food, but there's also things that happen when you do that. And so I'm like all on board with that. And I guess I did want to ask before Tyler says anything, I wanted to ask you a question, like where does the mental aspect of weight loss come into play? Because a lot of what happens in life coaching is people need to change their identity. They need to say, I am a smaller person. I am on this journey, instead of saying I'm on a diet, I can't eat this. They should say or think, this is what I can eat. These are all of the amazing options I have at my disposal. So where does the mental aspect come into weight loss?
Yeah, it's a good question. So Nick, so I think you guys talked before. I taught self-development seminars for 10 years in my 20s. And then part of it was based on quantum physics and understanding psychology as well. So it's important to understand. I hear what you're saying just about, okay, someone needs to make sure they have a change. I'm gonna drop some knowledge in you guys that I wish I knew. Yeah, that I wish I knew where you guys are. I almost died to get this knowledge, seriously. So have you guys heard of the law of polarity?
Yes.
Okay, I heard of the law of polarity. Now, there's a book called The Kybalion, Kybalion. I think everyone should read it. It's the universal principles. It's principles that apply to everything in the universe, and they apply to you. One of those principles is the law of polarity, okay? And so everything exists in a duality, okay? So there's a lot more to this than just telling yourself, here's what I can and can't do. The reason why I say this is that because when someone decides, let's say they want to lose weight, there's many things behind this. The mental piece of it is many times weight is an adaptation to some stressor. So I've had women who were sexually assaulted by a male figure as a kid, and they unconsciously put weight on them. Why? Because they become unattractive to men. It's a survival mechanism.
Wow.
So no longer are they attracted to men. Now they see me and I'm working with them at 30 years old, and we start having them lose 5-10 pounds, and they start freaking out. And we have a conversation. They go, well, they share with me, and they go, oh my God, this was your beautiful mechanism of not getting raped anymore or not getting sexually assaulted. This is more common than you guys would ever imagine. And it's not something that, and it's probably both ways, men and women, but I think it tends to be more women that I've experienced this with. So also what you mentioned about identity, I have people who, because of trauma, they will gain weight because it cushions and it softens their life. I have some people who are hard-hitting, really strong people, and what happens is they'll adopt a cushy personality so they have friends, and they're not an asshole anymore. The thing is, it's so much more complex than I can probably do in this hour.
Yeah.
Right. But this is a thing I want to mention to you guys. One of the things I do is I make a hormonal reset with people. So we know how we talk about the calorie reduction. If you just reduce your calories, right, and you end up triggering fast storage, you can see it's in the long run, it's not gonna last in the long run. Most people can't do that. What happens though is, why are we searching for certain foods? So let's look at that, because that might kind of go deeper into your question, Nick, is why do we search to seek for sugar and alcohol? There's a book called Sugar Blues by William Duffy. It is freaking awesome. I wish they had an Audible, because I love listening. I don't like reading, but it's only, it's one of the old school books you got to read. But it tracks the rise and fall of every major civilization since like the 1500s based on who controlled sugar. It's unreal.
That's fascinating. Very cool.
Dude, it is. It is. They actually have in there these messages back and forth. I don't know which war it was, but they have these messages back and forth between these decoded messages between like the battlefield and like the generals. And the messages are like this: hey, we noticed the other side is eating sugar. Instead of attacking now, let's just wait a few months and attack when they got enough sugar in their system so they're weak. Like these are messages that like we've known this. Right. So sugar is let's go back to why would we search for sugar? Okay. So let's look at pain and pleasure. If we go back to that primitive brain center, okay, back to like not even just 300 years ago, but I'm talking about over the thousands of years, the primitive brain center does one of two things. It avoids pain and chases pleasure. Yep. That's survival. Okay. So your brain and all of our brains still want to do this. So if you got totally heartbroken by a blonde woman who's 5'2", your brain will literally avoid blonde women who are 5'2". That's what happens. Right. So yeah, it's really interesting. Right. So here's the thing. When you look at pain, pain tends to be something we want to avoid. So let's say I'm in a relationship, and I'm just literally just shut down, and like I hate my relationship. I come home every night, and I feel terrible. The quickest thing for me to seek and gain pleasure would be sugar or alcohol. It's the quickest way, and because the sugar alcohol releases the chemical of dopamine in the brain. Dopamine is the reward center. Dopamine says, you've accomplished something in your life. Congratulations. That's why when you eat a donut, you go, yeah, man, I'm doing good. Life is good. Right. But then the dopamine goes away and you go, fuck, I shouldn't have done that. And it just, you go up and down, up and down. So to understand this is we seek to have these temporary pleasure foods or actions. They're all really in response to not wanting to feel our inner pain. So one of the things we do, and I coach people on, is to make sure they understand how to feel pain. You guys have been through pain in your life. I used to avoid pain. I used to avoid pain with positive attitude. Okay. So I'm answering this question, Nick, in a long way to so you can understand this.
Yep.
If someone says, "Oh, I should eat this and not this," what we're doing is just trying to be positive about what we're not truly feeling. I will have someone sit in the pain of not having. It's important that they not sort of talk over the feelings. So if they go, "Oh my God, Dr. Golman, I want a donut," I'll say, just go sit on the couch and dive into the feeling of not having a donut. Because what most people are doing are trying to get away from that feeling. And the more you try to get away from the feeling, the louder the feeling gets. It's the opposite. So if someone goes directly towards the feeling, they sit in the pain, they go, "This is terrible. This is terrible." All of a sudden, the energy releases and you go, "Holy shit, I don't want to donate anymore." That's what happens. So what I'm talking to you guys about as big principle is we're going to go towards pain instead of walk away from it. What that does is it moves you away from the primitive brain centers and works you up towards your higher evolved parts of your brain. So that's a huge thing I just mentioned that is probably not just weight loss, but applies to so many things in life.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense too, because like you're saying, we used to seek out berries and sweet food because they were rare and our bodies wanted to capture that sugar or fat or sweet reserves or whatever it is. But that's a great point to like fight against that primitive notion by accepting that pain. Because yeah, if you my grandfather would say that pain or not letting things go builds up like an acid inside of you. And if you don't let it out somehow or acknowledge those feelings, pain, whatever it may be, it's just going to eat away at you. So I think that's a very powerful thing that you have your clients do, just focus on the pain to get away from it.
I like what you said. That was your grandpa that said that? You know, he probably was, I think, maybe, I mean, somewhat wise person, because when he's saying acid, you literally, one of the things that change your pH level in your body is you just go store some anger. Your blood and your pH level will let you turn acidic. This is one of the main reasons for arthritis. Arthros is a Latin word for joint. Itis is a Latin word for inflamed. So people go to the doctor and go, "Doc, my joint hurts." And they go, let me check you out. Ah, you have arthritis. They told you the same fucking thing, but in Latin. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But because you don't understand the word, now I can give you a pill. There you go. I just described 99% of our healthcare system in that one little example. So the acidity of your body, for sure, he was really wise. The acidity of your body is absolutely based on storing emotions. So most people are terrified of their emotions. Most people are terrified of feeling pain, terrified of feeling alone. And it's wild, because when you actually just sit and feel those feelings, they not only do they transform, but you end up feeling so damn loved. It's the most odd thing to sit in pain and start feeling empowered. And it's almost like this process of reclaiming power. So yeah, we have people sit in the emotions instead of sort of trying to reprogram them or trying to talk over the emotions. That shit works temporarily. And so going in and actually feeling yourself, anything you face and feel doesn't control you. Anything you repress and avoid will control you for the rest of your life.
And before Ty says what he was going to say, I wanted to mention that whenever someone does that, they allow themselves to sit into pain or to feel that emotion, they'll also realize that that emotion is not controlling them. It's not forcing them to do anything. It is simply a feeling. And if we let that feeling go through us and do what it's going to do, we'll eventually release it and then realize after it's gone, hey, I can do X, Y, Z. I don't have to listen or abide by that fear. It is simply an emotion. And yes, emotions can be very powerful and lead us to do things, but they're also something that we can control. So I love that you have your clients do that.
Yeah. Tyler, you want to say something, buddy?
Yeah, everything you said so far is just like, thank you. Somebody else that is, the the same things that are in my mind that I can't say as eloquently. That's you nailed that. So the funny thing for me is I have a semi-similar, weight loss journey as Nico. I've also lost 100 pounds. It's been the same 10 pounds 10 times, but
Right.
but I mean, for me, and a lot of the stuff that you were just talking about, it's and I forget the term that I heard it, but I've said things to myself so many times where it's like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then I don't do it. And so it almost just becomes like subconsciously just anything I would say to myself, I don't believe internally, right? It gets, it's too hard to not eat crap when you're over at your in-laws' house for dinner 3 nights a week and you're just eating what's there. Or if someone invites you out, so a lot of the things, for me, and I think other people, is they've lied to themselves so many times, or they've failed themselves so many times that they no longer believe it when they want to make a positive change. They don't believe they're going to follow through. They don't believe that they're going to push through and sit with those negative feelings and whatnot. So a lot of what you're saying is very, very helpful, in that regard. So I appreciate that. One of
Yeah.
one of the questions I wanted to ask you, you talked about how one of the first things you do is you go through a hormonal reset with your clients. If I'm picturing that, or I'm thinking of that phrase hormonal reset as if I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see an ad, it's like, oh, we're gonna reset your hormones, and it's like that just sounds like, I don't believe that. Like, I don't know that you can do that. I don't know how you would do that. So can you kind of explain like how that's achievable, how it might work, and what the benefits could be to doing that?
Yeah, definitely. Because that's actually perfect, my friend, because that was exactly the next thing I was going to go into. Is one of the first things I dispel is, number one, calorie reduction. Yes, you'll lose some fat, but you eventually burn muscle, and then what it does is triggers your body to go back. When you do calorie reduction, you really have to be so freaking strict with everything. So let's talk about the hormone reset, because that's the second piece. So years of stressors. We live in a society where stress can mean something very different for everyone, but loss of loved ones, sometimes a divorce, sometimes a marriage, sometimes these are stressors. What I found is that most people, when they get stressed, they start leaning on sugar. When I say sugar, bread, cereal, rice, pastas, alcohols, these tend to break down to sugar. You guys remember something called you might remember the food guide pyramid, and it was like the 1990s. It was the like crappiest piece of advice that the government's almost ever given, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, right. It was like, most of your diet should be bread, cereal,
Grains.
rice, pasta. Yeah. But all of that breaks down to sugar. Because of that, whatever you give your body enough of, it'll become efficient at burning. That's the wisdom in this. So when you guys were born, every person that's born into this meat suit is born as a fat burner. Every person, you're already a fat burner. Why? Because fat has double the energy, 9 calories per gram. A protein and carbohydrate has 4. Fat has more than double. That's like, dude, that's like you going to the gas station saying, listen, you're gonna get more than double the miles per gallon with this gas versus this gas. Okay. So fat's beautiful. When you burn fat, your brain is on track. You feel energized. You have less dis-ease. Your emotions are balanced. I mean, the list goes on. Everyone's born as a fat burner. Over the years of stress and increased sugars and alcohols, your body, imagine like a little bit of a dial. If this is fat and sugar, eventually your body goes like this, and it flips over and it goes, oh, you're going to give me a lot of sugar? All right, we're in a sugar society. So the wisdom inside goes, probably better that I actually utilize the sugar than utilize fat. And it literally, the hormones we're talking about are leptin and ghrelin. So leptin and ghrelin flip over and they go, let's use sugar as a fuel source. Then over the course of years, people go, you know what? I got to lose some weight, because now their brain and body are not recognizing fat as the primary fuel source. It's a secondary fuel source. You guys follow me on that one?
Yep.
Yep.
So when that occurs, this is why if someone's hormones have flipped over to sugar burning, you can eat perfectly. You can work out, you can do every diet you want. But what happens is you keep storing fat. And that's why so many people are frustrated working out and exercising, dieting, but they still have that extra layer of fat because literally the hypothalamus is not identifying fat as a fuel source. So when you hear me saying hormone reset, I don't know when you're hearing sort of out there people saying reset your hormones, I don't know what ones they're talking about, but I'm specifically referencing leptin and ghrelin. Now there is a whole bunch of other, of course, hormones, but the only ones we got to flip for sugar burning to fat burning are leptin and ghrelin. And so over the years, I have a friend of mine who created a natural supplement. And him and I got together and we've adopted this. It's all herbs. It's plants and amino acids. And it basically triggers your hypothalamus to go back to burning fat as a fuel source. So imagine this. Imagine, Tyler, you want to take a trip across the country and you go, cool, I'm going to go for a trip. And say you're on a calorie reduction phase. You're like, hey, I want to make sure that I kind of fill my gas tank up only halfway and I'm going to drive across the country. It'd be kind of silly. Well, this is what people are doing with calorie reduction is I want to use my energy, but I'm going to have my gas tank low. Okay. But let's say you run out of gas and I come by and you're like, hey man, can you help me? And I look over and you have 10 or 20 pounds of a gas tank strapped to the outside of your car. And like, dude, you just need to get that fuel inside your engine. That's what is happening with people. Their car is not recognizing the fat on the outside. So that's what the hormonal reset does is that if you are identifying sugar as a fuel source, it literally is not used anymore. Okay. There is also something very interesting. Have you guys heard of dual lipogenesis?
No, I have not.
I have not.
I think it's a cool fucking word, first of all.
It is.
But yeah, it's very cool. Dual lipogenesis. Let's see here. Let me look it up. Let me see what they also call it. De novo lipogenesis is the other term for it. Okay. So we'll use that one. So de novo lipogenesis, okay? And the fanciness of the word is lipogenesis is when you break down fat and use it as a fuel source, okay? De novo means it's a fancy way of saying new. So it converts something, you're changing something new into something new. So what happens is your body literally changes. Think about how cool this is. When you put high amounts of sugar in your body does not know what to do with it because you're basically storing fuel. You're like, this guy he's about to fight a war. He's about to chase a deer. He's doing something or she's doing something, right? It literally says, what would be the best way for me to store this sugar? Let me think. Fat. Your body literally transforms sugar into fat because it is a more potent fuel source. That's like if you put, I don't know, oil in your car and it changed to gas so you could use it for the future. It's freaking amazing. So this is what the body does, the wisdom of it. That's why if you look at it, the wisdom, you're like, that's why I'm storing fat. Number one, because my hormones aren't literally using fat as a fuel source. Number two, if I still put sugar in or alcohols or any of them, my body's going to convert it into fat. And so your body literally stores this because of the reasons we talked about. And then you go, let me rob myself of calories. And you start seeing how we end up yo-yoing, right? There's a ton of research articles. You guys have probably seen those when I was talking about the calorie reduction, about they had athletes that Olympic athletes and different people try calorie reduction, and they found in the long run, the person like stayed like lean, they lost weight, but eventually they were so malnourished they became unhealthy. There was early bone loss. There was hormone problems. So to link this together then with the calorie reduction links to hormone problems as well. And so you don't have all the nutrients you need to actually have a normal, healthy, functioning body. So this is not just about, hey, let me lose some weight. How can I actually be healthy? So that might tie in together to understand the hormone reset. We literally get people's hormones to go right back to burning fat. When it does, about a half pound to a pound of fat comes off a day. And that's cool. But the more cool thing is, this is what I hear. Dr. Golman, it's really weird. It's really weird. I'm sleeping through the night. Dr. Golman, it's really weird. I'm not using coffee to wake up anymore. Dr. Golman, it's really weird. My joints don't hurt. And what I tell him is, yeah, you remember I was telling you about the whole sugar burning thing? Like you did this weight loss program, but you didn't realize you were burning sugar, and the byproduct of sugar is acid. The byproduct of sugar is dis-ease. That's the right. So
Wow.
gut bacteria imbalances, digestive imbalances, arthritis, headaches. I mean, cancer. Cancer uses sugar to metastasize. If there was any reason to reset your hormones back to fat, it'd be that one right there. So you guys can see how the people join this because it's a nice buzzword of weight loss. But eventually in my program, they start going, holy shit, I didn't realize all these other symptoms start clearing up because we're actually getting them back to healthy.
Yeah, you're attacking the root cause. Like you were talking about earlier when you go into a doctor and you're like, "Oh, I'm sneezing, here's a pill," but they don't ask why you're sneezing or anything like that. I had a little story for you. You'll appreciate this. I went into a dermatologist because I have some dry skin, and all they did was looked at me and prescribed a cream. They didn't ask me what my diet was. They didn't ask me what environment I work in, nothing. And just out of principle, I was like, yeah, no, I don't care if this is actually going to help me. I'm not getting that because you're not addressing the root cause. The same thing happens with diet. I think a lot of people want the quick fix. They want the pill, the shot, the magic diet, whatever, but they're not realizing that their hormones are the problem, or the core function of how their body works is the problem. And once they fix that, everything else falls into balance.
Yep, you got it. And that might be a good thing just to even address, because the most just to understand trends. You guys may not remember this, but years ago they had a diet called Atkins. That's what sort of created the whole ketosis craze.
Yep.
Dude, it created a lot of fat people. That's what it did. I watched a ton of people get fat, because number one, it's calorie reduction. It was never a healthy long-term thing. And these watch over the years, these crazes. HCG was about 10, 15 years ago. It's called human chorionic gonadotropin. It's a pregnancy hormone that people were going to the doctor and they had a pregnancy hormone injected in their body and they would lose all kinds of fat. And it was amazing, except it caused cancer, specifically breast cancer. So the FDA has banned it and then made it legal and banned it. People are still doing this shit, man. Yeah.
That's
so then,
wild.
right. So I'm watching these trends. Then I hear about Ozempic and I go, that's interesting. These GLP-1 and agonists, right? So they basically are the Ozempic and Wegovy and all these things. They were, you guys probably know this, they were a type 2 diabetic medication. That's what it was. But they started seeing that people were losing weight and they go, oh, we have a weight loss formula. Okay. This is how it came about. So now people are being injected with this. So I'll just tell you guys what I'm seeing happening. My sister is a gastrointestinal nurse. Okay. These injections, check this out. You guys will love understanding this. This is what, if people are listening to this, they will truly understand. This is the thing that's not being said to people. Okay. When that's injected to your body, what it's doing is overriding your normal hormones. Okay. And it specifically triggers the hormonal function that tells you that you're not hungry anymore. It does it by cutting off blood supply to your intestine. Okay. Ooh. My sister, yeah, this is interesting, right? You go, okay, cool. So here's what I hear people say is, my God, I'm not even hungry. This is amazing. Like, I'm not even eating, like I'm losing weight. Like, I feel so full. I ate a peanut yesterday and I feel so full. I'm so happy. Right. So that's cool for about a few days. Eventually people go, I'm not feeling so good. And I go, I can't imagine why you're not feeling good. I mean, but I'm just not hungry. You know, this thing is great at suppressing my appetite. Remember, your appetite was a God-given mechanism. If you override your appetite and suppress it, you're turning off these God-given mechanisms for you. Okay. So my sister, being a gastrointestinal nurse, She goes, "Hey, Cody, do you know what we're seeing in the hospital now? They have to add this little checkbox. Are you taking one of these GLP-1, antagonist medications? Because they're going in doing colonoscopies, and finding fully formed undigested food in the intestine.
Whoa.
Now, why is that important? If you don't know already, you didn't absorb any
Yeah,
nutrients.
no nutrient absorption. Yeah.
Yep. So what we're seeing now is osteoporosis, like long-term osteoporosis. We're seeing when you cut off blood supply to any, and you might know this, any internal organ, you're literally robbing it of oxygen. You're killing the
Killing
organ.
it.
Okay. I have a patient right now whose husband is a lawyer, and I was talking about this, and he goes, "Hey, do you know what? I'm getting I'm getting hundreds of lawsuits a day from people using these injections." I'm like, "Wait, you're getting hundreds?" He's like, "I'm getting hundreds a day." And he said, "No one is even getting any money. They're just lawsuit after lawsuit, because it's cheaper to just drug people up, and eventually, if they get sued, I don't pay 100 million. It's fine. You already made 500 million." And so, if people really understand this, you are cutting off blood supply to your intestines. You're literally creating a malnourished environment for your system, and you're watching weight go off, but it is muscle tissue. It's some fat, and then it's muscle tissue because of what we talked about with caloric reduction. The bigger problem is the moment you stop taking the injection, your system it just loads it back up, but you've screwed your metabolism up at this time. And so your hormones have to figure out, wait a minute, I'm actually hungry. What should I be eating? And so I find a lot of people that are taking this stuff, they're eating whatever the fuck they want. So no change is being made at all, except they are literally destroying their body. So we're going to see the effects of this over the next 5, even 10 years. You're going to start seeing probably lawsuits on TV about, did you take Wegovy? Did you take Ozempic? It's the same process that's been happening for 30 years or more.
Yeah, and that's something that I wanted to touch on. I had a buddy of mine who took a pharmaceutical course in college, and one of the things he mentioned he learned in that course is that pharmaceutical companies, when they release a drug or when they're planning to release a drug, they are already counting on being sued, and they are budgeting for those lawsuits. And so they already think that this drug's going to work really great, and it doesn't matter if we get sued because we're already going to make 5x over that number, whatever the lawsuit number is. So just keep that in mind, anyone that's listening, if they want to go out and take a pharmaceutical drug. That I always love listening to the side effects of the commercials. It's my favorite part.
It is. It's nutty that we've gotten to that world. And just to reference this, if you look at the top 3 leading causes of death, excess fat is linked to all of them: strokes, diabetes, heart attacks. One of them is like accidents, which obviously I can't say that fat is linked to that. But when you look at fat, and what happened over COVID is that being fat was like made normal. That's what I saw. Go to Target, and you start seeing plus size models. And when I have this conversation with women, some people get a little bit activated and they go, "Listen, love yourself. I'm just trying to get to make sure you're here on this planet for another 30 years and you have a great quality of life, because I want you to love yourself. I don't want you to love your fat, because your fat is killing you over a long period of time." So it's like, let's love ourselves. Yes, love yourself. But the best way you can love yourself is figure out how to get healthy. And excess fat is linked to the top 3 leading causes of disease and illness. So that would be a great thing to start clearing out and get back and get healthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, from the mental aspect, it's obviously great to have the positive thinking about yourself, but if you're thinking positively about being fat, that's not helping.
Yep. Exactly. Like, you know what? I'm gonna just keep loving my fat. I'm gonna love my sugar. I'm gonna eventually love my diabetes, and I'm gonna love losing my limbs. But I'm gonna love myself through the whole thing.
People do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, buddy. You go ahead.
I was just gonna say I just looked at the clock and I went, "Holy cow!"
Whoa!
I just did that too.
I think if you're up for it, I think we definitely need to do like a part 2 or something at some point, because I just, in that last little section there, I wrote down a bunch of stuff that we are not going to get to.
Why don't we do it?
So,
Let's do a part 2, 3, and 4, because what I was feeling into is this weight loss conversation. But I would actually love to have that conversation. But I'd love to have even a conversation with you guys about some universal principles, because I saw you guys got a little excited about that, and understanding these principles and how the mind functions. I think like we have a little bit of, we'll do the weight loss series and then we do a universal principle series if you want.
That works. That works
absolutely
great for me.
Well, I'm up for it all.
For this, go ahead, Ty.
Thank you. The one thing I did want to leave with you, just to kind of set up a future thing, because I know when we hopped on first, we talked about, or you had mentioned about how you talk about rewiring the brain, and getting that involved in your programs and whatnot. And I just wanted to piggyback off of some of the other conversation on. I totally agree with what we've been saying about how the state of Western medicine and how it's all symptom first and all of these things. My wife's a PA. She's works in a bunch of hospitals. We've had discussions on that where it's like, I feel like all you guys do is just give a pill or whatever. And she's like, there's definitely a lot of practitioners out there that do that. A lot of people want to actually help patients. Mm-hmm. However, when they start suggesting lifestyle changes, when they start saying, this is what you should do, the patient's like, well, I don't want to do that. Just give me the pill. So there's that dichotomy there where it's like the healthcare provider just, wants to fix the problem, but also help the patient sometimes. The patient sometimes just wants the quick fix. So I think your whole rewiring the brain deal, I think would be great to just transform the patient's mind so that they will be open to the lifestyle advice.
Yep. Yep.
So I loved that. And then, I know you got to jump off here, but where can people find you? How do they get involved with your program? You highlighted a lot of stuff that like, I want to sign up like right now. So, there's, I'm sure other people listening have the same sort of feeling. So where can people go find you and get in touch with you?
Well, let's see. I'll give you a few places. So first of all, in terms of the weight, the hormone reset fat loss program, everyone can go to Fast 40 weight loss. So it's 40 days. So fast40weightloss.com. You can also go to drcodygolman.com. And I'm saying that for a few of the people that are interested in kind of the coaching. We run a weekly mastermind, where we deal with universal principles and understanding how the mind is wired. And so that's something, if somebody's interested in that, and you guys even, you can contact me on there and we can set up a call and just see, there's a few aspects I think I've been encouraged, and then seeing you guys. Weight loss is one piece of it, but I see you guys are also interested in the mind piece. And so I do personal coaching with that, that someone can just find that at drcodygolman.com and we can jump in and do whatever I've rewired addictions to, alcohols and sugars, all the way down to addictions to people, because I've been through all that myself, right? I'm not any better than anyone else. I figured this out because I screwed it up a lot. That's why.
That's how we learn.
Yeah, exactly. So,
well, definitely appreciate your time, and we will be reaching out to you and setting up a part 2, and at this rate, a part 3 on top of that. So
yeah.
Thank you so much. I think this stuff needs to be spread, and I'm really appreciative of what you're doing and the people you're helping, and I would imagine they are too. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks guys for being in, and yeah, you guys know, shoot me a message and we'll set up again and kind of go whatever topics you want to, because it's fun to do this, man. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you.